Yeah, brown bacon.
Hi Bikash, welcome to the groundbreaking. How's it going?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to this. So it's it's great to be part of this.
Yeah, you mentioned that you had a long Saturday. I hope you're feeling comfortable.
Yeah, I'm fine. I think a bit of driving happened today in the morning for me to go to airport and back, but I think it's
Yeah, it can be like a whole reception in Bangalore. It's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's a whole world. Uh, Bikash, take us through your journey. What you've been doing. What's happening.
Hmm.
What are the amazing things that you're doing at Ather?
Yeah. Like a quick background for me. So one I did not study design. I studied engineering. And while a lot of designers do study engineering, but they go and do like a master's or something, I did not do that. For me, Ather was the master's master's program in a way. So I joined Ather in back in 2013, in my final year of my college, as an intern, and yeah, and at that time I did not know what Ather was. I didn't know what electric vehicles were. I didn't even understand much about two wheelers. I was at college building some projects, which was mostly four wheelers, ICE engine. Yeah, and sort of jumped into this, and yeah, and it has been an incredible journey from that onwards. Worked across every single aspect of building the 450 as a product. And so eventually, obviously, I took up the role of sort of building the design team. And design is something that sort of came through me. I always wanted to be part of design. I think my first preference was to get into design. I did give my NID exams and all those things. Did not get during my after my 12th. So my second option was engineering. So design is something that sort of was always there during working with during Ather, and that's something sort of I picked it up, and yeah, eventually sort of built the team and led the team to at Ather, and currently as a hero design for Ather, I like my team sort of works across all products that Ather builds, be it physical or digital products. So right from vehicle to all the ecosystem products like the charging infrastructure, the accessories, the merchandise, even all the digital products like the app, the websites, the HMI. All of that is sort of part of what we do every day. And yeah, it has been incredible as a journey for me, from starting from a incubation cell at ID Madras to now being a publicly listed company. I think that's it has been a very, very crazy journey till now. So
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, um, I think as you said that you've learned on the way, and I think there's nothing better than building a brand, a company from scratch, and
yeah,
getting to see it from like the front seat, which is amazing. 11 years, if I'm right, right?
yeah,
You've been with Ather. You building Ather for almost more than a decade.
yeah.
How old was the company when you joined? Just curious.
So when I joined in December 2013. Athos started in Feb 2013. So it
Crazy.
is just few months old, not even a year before.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it must have been like an insane learning, like seeing it unfold on every step. Take us through about the initial journey of Ather. As you've said, and I also noticed that you're coming from an engineering background, and since like I'm also from an industrial background. What I've learned about automotive design and automotive as a segment is that there are very few things that you can be do in terms of being have creative freedom and stuff
Mm,
like that. Considering that you guys were kind of new to the team and also learning, how were
right.
you kind of managing and kind of breaking the limits? Just want to
Right.
know your perspective.
Sure. So I think the good part was that we were a very young bunch of folks in the beginning who did not know what did it take to build a company in the automotive space. I think that I think that naivety was a blessing, and not knowing was great, because we were able to challenge the status quo of how vehicles were built, and sort of build something from really grounds up scratch, right? Because till that time of you, if you look at any IC vehicle, while on the outside they make look different, you open a Honda or a Bajaj or whoever's frame, it'll almost look like the same, because they have spent decades to sort of perfect what makes sense from a cost and features and all that perspective. We had a blank slate, so we could redefine what it meant to build a electric scooter. So I think for us, we went from we had a very grounds up approach to it. We had actually a lot more freedom, and then especially I would say it would be one of those projects where we went from a very outside in approach, where the initial idea of what the vehicle is going to be, and how that would look like, and what are the core elements that we would want to celebrate, was finalized first, and then we went about building what internally what would it take to sort of deliver on the exterior of the product, right? Rarely you get a chance to do such kind of things, and I think that also that particular, I would say, a very reverse constraint helped us build a lot of new things, because we had like this whole hybrid aluminum and steel chassis, which usually you would not see in any scooter, right? And that helped us to definitely reduce a lot of weight, us making a vehicle which is far more stable and is very nimble on the traffic, right? So a lot of these things was purely possible because we challenged what was the norm. And obviously, being electric, you cannot just replace like a battery in place of a fuel tank or a motor in place of an engine, right? You have to look at what makes sense and how do you distribute all of these things. So I think those things we were able to do with a lot more freedom, and ultimately we were able to build a very well put together product that was not just one aspirational, because till that time electric was not really not just electric, but in general scooters were not really aspirational products. They're more utilitarian, right? But I think the one of the ideas for us was that if you have to build a electric vehicle that can go mainstream, it needs to be an aspirational product. It needs to capture the minds of people who would f- would almost fall in love with the product, and only then the adoption can really happen, right? So I think for us that was important, and that led to what 450 became. And another angle that we kept was that we we did not one know how to do a lot of research, and also we didn't have a lot of money to do research. But what we ended up doing is that we said, hey, we are building this product for us. So we had this whole poster called Built for Us across the company, where the whole idea was we will build the best product that we would want to use. And I think we will find enough of people like us that would sort of find the value of what we are building. And that became like sort of like a very North Star for us and the whole company towards building the product.
Yeah, and I think you guys were also kind of ahead of the time, because I think this is like 10 like almost 13 years ago, like to 12 years ago.
Yeah.
The market was kind of new, and even still people are adapting. Maybe like in a city like Bangalore, Delhi, people still have kind of some sort of awareness in terms of having an EV, or like a EV scooter and stuff. How are you kind of making sure that you were leading it right? Or and I think at that time you were the only players who were trying to do something, and I think also kind of opened the market for more players to come, which
Yeah.
I think not a lot of people talk about it enough. But you guys were constantly innovating. How are you kind of making sure that okay, we are staying ahead, or what, like were you like looking forward to the global brands, or something?
So, I think, to be honest, there weren't much of a reference that was available even from a global scale perspective. Um, at least when we began, right? Because till that time, if you look at it, um, any electric scooters in India were mostly non-licensed products, which means that they were 25 kmph. They were like lead acid battery, bought from China, assembled here, sold. Right. And that as a market was actually at that point of time had declined massively, where I think it was only 20,000 units sold a year because of the poor quality of those products. Right. And one of the reason of us building the whole product itself was because of the kind of product was available at that time, right? And I think one, we did not have any good reference, so we had to figure out what we should be doing ourselves, right? What makes sense. And the other point being, even at a global scale, I think two wheelers from an scooter from an electric point of view hadn't really caught up at that time. The references were something like, there was a company called Mission Motors, um, and there were few other electric motorcycle companies, but um, either they were getting bankrupt before launch, or they would launch and then get shut. So there weren't any good references. So what we went back was, I think we were, and I think it was um, quite a coincidence that the any early bunch of people were quite intrigued, or I would say quite inclined towards building great experiences, right? And the reason of saying that, hey, we will build a touchscreen dashboard with Google Maps integrated, was purely from pain points of what we felt every time when we were going around Chennai, right? Chennai is a very big city, not a city that none of us, the folks who were part of the team, were they were not from Chennai. They all had come from different places. So navigation was always a problem, right? So we're like, okay, if we had to build a product that be, we would love to drive, one of the big problems is navigation. So that is how us having like that dashboard came into being. And subsequently, all the other features and experiences were sort of aligned with that in place, right? And so we were always chasing experiences and getting those things right, and not be like, oh, oh, we will be better than someone else as a reference. Literally the only product that got launched while we were already building was Gogoro, right?
Yeah.
And that was again in Taiwan, and it was, I think that was a really good, I would say, reference,
Yeah.
because I think they also had a very different approach to building products, purely because of how where the founders of HTC came and built a scooter.
Yeah, I think they were doing great in Europe as well. I think I remember I was in Berlin in 2017 and they had Gogoros everywhere on the street,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And beautifully looking vehicle. Um, um, I think when I that was the reason I remember that, because it kind of made an impact.
yeah,
And I think what I think Ather has similar kind of an outlook. Maybe the positioning is very different
yeah,
because these are two different industries
yeah.
altogether.
So I think for us, that was one product which was like, hey, they have they they have built something from scratch. They have a really good design taste and sense, and they have built something which looks very. We actually got our hands on a Gogoro which is with us.
Do you bring it to India?
Yeah, we bought it.
Oh wow.
But it's in pieces. But anyhow, yeah. But I think it is a brilliant piece of engineering and design that they were able to pull off. So that was a really good, I would say, inspiration to sort of make sure that you design everything inside out and not just the exterior part of a product.
Yeah. What I absolutely love and want to know more about is how you were also, kind of finding a balance between the hardware and the software.
Mhm.
Even today, even your latest launches,
Yeah.
I just want to know like how you were aligning with the team, or because I think exterior design and like mechanical and internal part could be totally different department and maybe not very interrelated. How was that going on?
So, so the way we look at it is that while yes, from a pure execution point of view, you look at, oh, there is a hardware system, there is a software system, but for us, I think what is very important um is the story of the product, right? Um, what what is the story of any product that we are building, right? And that's how we began. So all our project begins with us building the story first. Um, we will not even put pen to paper on any details unless and until we have a fairly compelling, well put together story of what this product is all about. Um, and what that does is that that actually guides what are the experiences and things that people for that particular consumer that who we are trying to chase and the kind of story that we want to talk about. um what are those features or experiences that you'd build, and that helps us to then trickle down a key what in the hardware or in the software is needed, not the other way around. That okay, there is some piece of hardware that is available, some piece of software, now what can you do with it? I think that's a very uh, old way of looking at it, and I think purely it's also possible because we have a very vertically integrated system within Ather, right? So we have control over every single aspects of these things. So it's a very story down approach towards defining what we would be building, and then we just bifurcate of what for that to be delivered, what does a hardware need to do, or what a software need to do, right? And we actually work quite in interrelated on this to make sure that we are able to produce the best, like the best optimized version of it, right? So yeah, I think that's how we go about it.
One thing I've so it's just bunch of my friends and my classmates, my seniors were part of Ather. Is another reason that I know about Ether so much, and
Yeah,
like not so much, but like I've seen the journey from very close. Uh, you you folks were also really good with building the community, and I think before like we were just having
yeah,
a conversation about inviting and trying to give your product into your users hand and kind of build a community around.
right.
Where did that thought come from? Like what was the values that you were trying to build by doing such things?
Yeah, I think for us, it started very early. So we used to actually host this open house on Saturdays or Sundays in our office, and the agenda there was, hey, we are building something new. If some people are interested to know our story, you can come and we will sort of take you through the journey of some of the things that we are building. um and uh, and let's have a chat, let's have a conversation, right? And uh and most of the time, like I think we started with expecting like 25 people. 50 people showed up, we expanded to 50, 100 people showed up. So and we would think that these events will run for like an hour or so, it will run for 3-4 hours. So we, in the very initial, while it was an experiment to just see how can we engage with consumers, um I'll not even tell them customers because we are not expecting them to put down a down payment or anything. It was more in the lines of ki, hey, if you're interested with products, just come in and have a chat. And I think we saw a lot of merit in people really interested in knowing what is going behind it, right? We also did a lot of beta rides with those consumers where we actually let them write prototypes at very early stages to just give feedback, right? Hey, what did you feel? What worked? What did not work? And we would take them to these go-karting tracks where we would like let them go laps on it, and yeah, just get feedback. So I think we have a very, I think that these things sort of helped us build this whole philosophy of ki we we don't go and ask a customer, hey, what do you want? But where it becomes very, and I don't think so that is the right way to look at it, because they're not looking at the context of where you are, what you're trying to do, and then just going and blankly asking them does not make any sense. But what makes complete sense is that you have built something and you want some genuine feedback. I think that's great, right? And it could come from you just showing them what you're doing. It will come even more deeply when you actually give them something in their hand to sort of use and test out. And that was our testing ground at that time, right? I think for a long time we did not do like a formal research that usually things happen, right? We went through a lot of these kind of things to and be very frugal with it, but yet get very rich outcomes with people, and that is where we just wanted to double down on that when we launched, right? And one of the things that we actually did was and which is, I would say, a big highlight, was that when we launched our launch Ather in Chennai, we actually took 70 of the folks from Bangalore who were customers and took them there, not as audience, but actually as spokespeople for Ather, and with zero input given to them that, hey, you should not be talking this or you should be talking that. No, you're just, hey, go talk to the next community which is going to get built here, right? And be candid. Whatever you want to speak, good, bad, doesn't matter. This is what the product is. This is what you have experienced. Now speak to the next line of folks who are going to mostly be the customers here, right? So I think that was our way of sort of building it, and it has only grown now, coming to where we are, where we do community days, where actually all the major launches of the year happen in a community day. And yeah, and we put consumers up front and media on the side during those things. And yeah, and I think it has been always great to uh, have a very deep love for the brand, and a deep connection with Ather as a product. And I think this is I would say, one of our superpower that we are able to build. So
Yeah, I'm sure there are individuals who've been coming to these community days for more than a decade now, right?
oh yeah,
I'm sure there are a
yes,
few.
and we know some of them by heart, like who
Yeah,
those people, like I can recognize, oh yeah, he's there, right? So yeah, there's
yeah,
almost like the part of our team.
yeah. One thing I absolutely love about Ather is how they are kind of design driven,
Yeah.
not just with the industrial design point of view, but also the interaction design, the kind of a branding and marketing you guys are going on. Um, how have you been kind of unfolding it? Because or maybe like building kind of a design system to to be relevant to what you've done in the past. How difficult was it to kind of build that foundation and to kind of stick to it?
Right. I think we have been lucky there, because the very early folks who were part of the design team were very, very committed to building great products, right? And not just for not just on the physical side, on the digital side, on the communication side, on any sort of interaction or media or whatever it is, right? So I think we had a very crazy bunch of folks who really were focused on the craft, focused on it being consistent across all touch points, and also be able to deliver great quality, right? With whatever timeline and things were going on, we'll do that. I think that foundation really helped, right? And I think while I would say building a system and all became a much later thing, I think it was the whole fort was held by folks who were just there from the beginning, right? Like, um, for example, like in the design team, among the first 15 people who joined, I think 12 or 12 of the folks are still there, right? So there's only very few people who have even left, right? So I think one is a big chunk of it is fairly people driven, because those people still exist, and
Yeah,
they are sort of always there to sort of guide and keep things in place. and beyond that, obviously we have created our own design systems and things so that we can scale, because at the scale that we are operating now and what we will eventually get into, it'll be very hard to just be managed by or dependent on people doing that. There are processes and systems being created, but I think our foundation was very much strong because of the individuals who were part of it.
That's a very interesting point, actually. I'm actually really curious to know the kind of culture that you might be having inside in your team, since a lot of your team are been there from day one,
Yeah.
which is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I think the most difficult part for a company is to retain people. How are you doing it? What were you doing it right?
I think few things that we get right, I feel, is one is the kind of freedom you get, um, while obviously being accountable for it, right? It's not freedom with no accountability, it's freedom with accountability. And I think that is something that especially with designers, you want them to have that kind of a feel, right? Like, no one would like micromanagement, or just be like, hey, I just because I'm saying so, do it this way. I think one is this whole freedom with accountability, which has been there. The other thing is, I think our decision making is not very hierarchical in terms of when it comes to design decisions and stuff. We try to do it as much as with consensus to and discuss, debate, and then get to a closure, which we have been fairly successful in doing with a lot of times whenever we have these kind of situations. And I think the other part is just the kind of environment that we have, right? And the culture that we have been able to build. Because I think it, for us, it's not a very serious work environment. I think you will see people playing cricket after lunch, and just in the studio for just 10 minutes. Some people will join and do that. Or if there's a some launch that is happening of any other product, you'll see everyone sort of huddle in one place, play that. So it's a bit informal kind of a space, but I would say very, very serious about the outcome, right? um uh, so you would not see that people are just people will become very serious when when there's a particular outcome that needs to happen between a particular time. You will see people sitting there till like 11-12 o'clock when there are deadlines that are very crucial. And yes, and then when there is time to chill, we will on a Tuesday we'll go out for a lunch for 2 hours, right? I think it's just that a bit of this whole freedom with accountability is one part that has sort of helped us people continue there. And yeah, and keeps things going for us.
What are your responsibilities being a head of design? How are you making sure, or are you making sure, like throughout the sectors, there's similar kind of a design ecosystem going on and stuff?
So the way I look at it, um, if I've at my job is to build great teams that builds great products, right? My job is not to build the product. The team builds the product. I build great. I have to spend enough time and effort to build those great teams. Um, so I would say my focus is a lot on the people side of things, right? Where it's about having those conversations or guidance, or even building structures, or um, figuring out space, or figuring out even courses, equipments, this, that, any of those things, whatever helps me build a great team, right? Or obviously hiring is a big part of it. And I actually, on the product side of it, for me, the best place I would want to be, it is that I'm obviously a critique who's coming in to sort of give you feedback, and my feedback is important because of my perspective that I can have because I'm looking at things at a more 30,000 feet or 40,000 feet view, and I will have a slightly more unique uh, point of view, which will help bring in things that will make the product holistic, right? I am not there to make any decision for you, right? I will not make a decision about things. I cannot make decisions for every product that is happening because it's too many, and I will be super inefficient on doing that because I'll not have all the context to the depth that someone needs to have. The people who are working on them are the best people to make those decisions. I can give you different perspective if you are stuck in different places, but ultimately I want others to make their decisions on the product. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, love the insight and the perspective
Yeah.
that you have. Uh, one so I've been kind of a cheerleader of Ather, and been closely seeing whatever you guys have been doing. um I think recently one fun thing happened, at least from this side. I'm sure it could be really amazing for you as well. I think you guys were sponsoring this IPL team,
Yeah. Gujarat
Gujarat,
Titans. Yeah.
right? And they won the IPL.
Yes.
What did that to the brand? Did it get more eyeballs, or just want to know?
Yeah, I think us taking the direction of going and doing Gujarat Titans and all, I think it was, again, I was not involved in that decision making, but I think the thought process was, hey, cricket, obviously the biggest eyeballs that anything gets in India, and IPL obviously for sure. So where do you go, right? Like, do you go and do you go and invest in already established teams which are already there, be it a Chennai Super King or like a Mumbai Titans and all those things, but to be at the forefront of them where you are actually recognizably there in their jersey or communication, it's very expensive, right? And also they're fairly established. I think for us it was about taking bets, and we are also kind of like an underdog, where already established OEMs are sitting there, been here
Yeah.
for multiple decades, and we came in uh, as an entry very very recently, and I think at that time, because I think there was obviously Hardik Pandya and all those team things happened, and we're like, hey, you would want to bet on the people, rather than just a brand to begin with. And I think that's how it sort of began for us, and very very fortunately it played out very well in the first season itself. So I
Yeah.
think it
The,
was,
the first thing I was thinking was that, they got Ather on their shirts and they won it. So I mean, can be
yeah,
I think it can be a great deal for a brand.
yeah,
You
of
know,
course, of
so
course. Yeah.
must have got like some amazing eyeballs, and also, and now the person who is representing is also the captain of the country,
Yeah, yeah,
which is
yeah.
it's like small these small things that
Right.
that also adds to the brand,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
So what do you think about India, as a country for EVs? I think in last couple of years especially, we've been seeing all the segments turning into EVs.
Right.
Do you think there's more space for more brands like Ather to come?
Hmm. Um. Yeah, I think for sure, right? Like, if you look at India as a market, especially on the two-wheeler side of things, I think we are obviously one of the largest two-wheeler market in the world, right? And today the penetration of EV is still, it's there, it's fair, it has got a fair potential, but there's long way to go. We are sitting at like 6-7% market penetration, right? And we sell what, almost 2.6, no, 26 million vehicles get sold each year. 26 million two-wheelers are sold each year. So there's a huge potential that is in front of us, right? So that is purely from market potential. I think the other angle is, as a country, I think we obviously are growing fairly fast. I think there is a lot more purchase power that is getting created, and when once that gets created, obviously people will be looking for something that is beyond utility, right? And I think if you look at how the market on the two-wheeler has at least evolved, things have become fairly on the premium side, right? Like even today, if you buy an IC scooter, an Activa is not a 60K anymore. It's a 90,
Yeah.
95,000
Yeah.
rupee product, almost hitting a lakh. And even other IC products are good. IC products are also sitting in that range. So I think there's a overall, if you look at it, the whole premiumization is a phenomenon that has caught up across multiple categories, and two-wheelers is another place where it has happened, right? So I think there's a huge upside of what India can get into the EV side. So that's another. The third is that in the past few years, um, the way the shaping that has happened with especially with EVs is that we went from a very we are only the builders and not the creators to a very creator focused approach, in the sense that a TVS built a TVS or a Bajaj or Ola or Ather or any of these, we are all building from scratch, right? We are designing from scratch. We are building for, and we are designing for India. We are not buying designs from outside and just manufacturing it in here. So I think there's a huge push towards build, not just that whole make in India part, but also design in India as a thing, right? And what that has led us to do is that we have built really great tech at exceptionally great price, which is not there in the world today. If I see the kind of tech that our two-wheelers have, I think it's one of the best in the world, right? You will not see one. And from a penetration of EV, especially in the scooter segment, India is leading, because you don't have any other country. Literally, no other country has the kind of penetration that has happened in the scale that has happened right now in India. So I just don't see. I would say that it's not just about how India will grow with EV, but India will become a great hub of exports for EVs externally, very in the near coming future, by a lot, right? Because the rest of the countries have not really caught up much. The next big countries, obviously, or Indonesia and all, very much into ICE products. EV has not really caught up. Even they don't have EV brands that have come in much, right? China is obviously another market, but they took a very different approach on on scooters. It was all about very high utility product. Cheap products, use it for 2 years, throw them away, buy another thing, right? Very different approach than what we are taking. So I think there's a huge upside, not just from India as a country and how EVs will grow in here, but also how we can build really exceptionally great products that will be very much like available for us to export, not to just like African countries or Southeast Asian countries, but also to European countries in place.
Yeah, love those insights. I've actually wanted to ask, do you have plans to sell it abroad, or you are already selling?
So we have started. We are already in Nepal and Sri Lanka. Um, main reason is of us just doing this is that, one, they're obviously the closest market that is there. Second, their use cases and what the product today does is fairly in sync. So we don't have to do a lot of changes and modifications to it. And there's so much more to explore in India for us as a brand already. We only have like 400 touch points right now. We are looking at going up to 750 in this by this year itself, financial year itself. So I think there's a lot more for us to, as a business, to grow in India itself at first. And once we are at a good place here, I think export is definitely something that all of us would be looking at. So yeah.
You all recently came up with like a segment that was kind of like a bigger than your previous set of scooters,
Yeah.
and also set of helmets
Yeah.
that was kind of integrated, some tech
Yeah.
integrated stuff. How have you been deciding, and do like, as a as someone who's kind of heading the design, how much space you have to kind of pitch new design as well as maybe new segments,
Mhm.
or maybe like cars in the future?
Right.
Do you have such plans, and like how does it work?
So, from a approach perspective, um, for at Ather, more so um our way of work is that between design and product management, we work very much close together at the very initial phase of any product that we want to build, right? So, and it's also that there will be times when like a product management will come and and pitch, obviously, the initial pitch of what would be the product, what would essentially be the product roadmap. But there are times where we also go and suggest on our side. So it's a very two, both of us play a role of bouncing each other in terms of ideas and thoughts, which eventually goes to the roadmap of what is there. So I think for us, the one big, I would say, difference is that our involvement becomes very early, um, not at not at just the definition of what the design is, but also at the creation and ideation of what we should be building, right? So I think from that angle, a lot of these any new products and stuff is something that we constantly sort of talk about it. We also do build some things as POCs, and yeah, and that's something, that's an approach that we have adopted for anything that we build here.
Very, very excited to see how all of these things gonna unfold in the
Yeah.
future, Bikash. That takes us to the end of the conversation, and I want to ask you, what's your vision with your personal journey and also the company that you're representing? What is something that you guys want to do, and you like the maybe the best case scenario as a brand, or as a set of individuals? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure you spent like more than a decade building something from
Yeah.
scratch, which is actually very rare, and not everyone get a chance to build
Yes.
something like that.
Of course. I think personally, I think mm, I would like to see how we can continue doing a lot of um pioneering work, I would say, as a company, because I would say that if I one of the ways I look at that, of Ather success is not about how many vehicles we sold, or what exactly the product is. I think it's about um influencing the industry to build high value products, and and what that means is, I would say, is that there's a very I would say skewed notion that India wants only cheap products. No, I think India wants very high value products. People are okay to spend if they see a high amount of value of what they're spending money on. So that's why having, so it putting a touchscreen, adding a good amount of money to it made sense, uh, because it had a very integrated Google Maps and everything, and solved their problem of taking out their phone and looking at the maps and putting it back again, or putting their phone on a mount, right? And I think that is what people value. Right. So I think I would want to sort of be at that forefront and pioneering stage of building new things that we do as a brand, and also that influences what other people do in the industry, and that at least carves towards a place where I think us to be able to build great experiences for consumers, right? And what people also value with those experiences. So I think that's the philosophy with which we want to go into, right? And yeah, and that could culminate into any kind of outcomes in terms of products. So that's
What
how we
what
do.
what are the couple of things that uh like design wise, or things an EV brand should do today in 2025 to be timeless?
I think every brand needs to find their foothold on what they should be known for, right? I think a lot of brands, a lot of startups that came up and they failed, or they were not able to keep their footing, is because they were not unique in any way, right? Um, and they were trying to just beat someone on a parameter that someone else is already good at by a certain margin, and I think that doesn't work, right? Like, we cannot, like, Ather wouldn't have survived if we will be like, hey, we will build the next Activa. No, like, Honda knows what the next best Activa is like, not us. We cannot be saying that we will build the next Activa or we'll build the next Splendor. No, we can't. We have to figure out what we are good at, and something that people, again, they appreciate or value. It cannot be something that people don't even care about. No, you have to find what people care about and build that as part of your brand, and be so good at it that others can't really outperform you in that parameter, right? And I think that is what will allow you to sustain and be part of this, right? Because automotive is a very hard business. It's a very hard business. So you have to be very, very sure about that, of what you are known for, and that's important.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. What are your favorite scooter brands other than Ather? Or maybe the brand that we should know about, or
um EV brand scooter, I would say Gogoro does pretty good job for sure. I think they have done, like, especially I would say that the first one that they had launched, which was called the S1 itself, and I think I love that product. The kind of design that they created and the kind of engineering it had was like top notch, right? Like, not never seen in the world, kind of a thing. So that was like a all time favorite for sure. Recently, um I do like I do like the River Indie from what they're trying to do. I think, as a at least they did not go down the path of, oh, let's just build another Ather replica or another Bajaj replica or TVS replica. They went their own path. They carved their own niche and they have a story to tell. And I think that I appreciate, right? Like, that being able to do that, I think, is important, and they have been able to do that, right? And yeah, and in terms of the products, at least they have been able to sort of translate that story into a product that can correlate to it, right? So I think in that way they have done a good job, right? um um yeah, I think rest I feel like everyone is doing mostly very incremental things. Like, if I look at most of the other brands of what is coming out are very incremental, and even if you look at some of the Japanese products which are now coming in, as very safe way of doing it. But sure, that's their approach. But yeah, I think.
awesome, Bikash. Thanks a lot for joining us in the conversation. Absolutely love it.
Thank you.
And I hope we get to do this again.
Yeah, of course.